Hi there, my name is Natalie Martin. I'm a student at San Joaquin Delta College in the Education 12 class, section 70018, and this is my lesson number 1 plan presentation. The name of my lesson is a daily story reading and comprehension of the book, The Rainbow Fish. The topic of my small group activity is a deep dive and decoding of this book that focuses on comprehension of new vocabulary words and phonological awareness, with an emphasis on the cognitive and language domain area of a student. The objectives of my lesson plan are students will be able to read the book, The Rainbow Fish, in a group setting by listening to the words and repeating the sentences after the teacher. Students will be able to identify parts of the book, such as the title and the appearance, and use the cover to make context clues of the story. Students will be able to answer comprehensive questions from the teacher about new vocabulary or any new words, and will be called upon during the reading activity. Students will be able to comprehend the plotline of the story by answering the questions who, what, where, when, and why. And students will also generate a graphic organizer such as this to talk about the story elements, characters, setting, the problem of the story, as well as the solution. My activity follows as such. In order to implement the lesson, you will need materials, a copy of the book by The Rainbow Fish, a piece of paper of a graphic organizer, markers, and as well as copies for students to be taken care of. This is my teacher copy, but in the classroom I would probably photocopy this and pass them around to students. My lesson plan follows as such. Students will transition from sitting in their desk to moving their way to the reading center of the classroom. As a teacher, you will spend a moment reviewing any of last week's vocabulary or literacy skills that the class is working on to refresh them before they even start reading the book. Then you will introduce the book to the class. You will show students the front of the book, the back of the book, and the spine, and introduce the parts of the book. You will inform students that the title often gives a clue of what our story is going to be about. You can then take a minute opening a classroom discussion of what we think the book was about. You can flip through some of the pages and look at the illustrations in order to make predictions of what will happen in the book. Then you will also introduce the graphic organizer and say students need to pay attention to the who, what, where, when, and why of the book, as well as the character, setting, problem, and solution of the book. As a teacher, you will be the one reading the book to the classroom, and then after each page ask comprehension questions to keep the class engaged. You can alternate the strategies of reading a sentence and asking students to point out vocabulary, asking a specific student to say, what is the who of our book? And so on and so forth. After the book is over, you will fill out the graphic organizer of the characters, the setting, the problem, and the solution. You can do this as a group, or you can also do this in pairs. If you want to have an optional homework assignment, you can have students write down any unfamiliar vocabulary, and then when they go home that night, they can use a dictionary to write down the definition of each word and then turn in the paper the next day. This is just a really simple mini lesson on how to decode a book, as well as how to practice comprehension skills and literary skills. If there was a student in my classroom that had any special needs, for example, if I had a student that had dyslexia, there are many accommodations that I would take in order so that the student can still effectively and participate in the class. If I had a student with dyslexia, meaning that they have difficulty decoding and reading a book, I could either accommodate the student by asking for a paraprofessional or for a teacher aide to do the same activity one-on-one with the student. The aide will read the book out loud to the student, and the student will do the entire assignment verbally. They won't have to write the graphic organizer, but they will have to have someone write it for them. They will need a scribe. Another accommodation is I can have a student have their own copy of the book where they can go in and they can highlight the words in order for where they struggle or where they will need extra help. And lastly, if the entire book is just too advanced, I can always designate a couple of pages for the student so they can work in small portions in order to have quality over quantity. My lesson plan was designed to focus on the guides to speech and action of using your voice as a teaching tool. Being the facilitator and having access to the book, the teacher is going to be the one guiding the classroom and asking the questions of, what do we think, class? How did this make the rainbow fish feel? So my tool will be the teaching tool. This This mini lesson will focus on comprehension, and it will focus on phonological awareness, dictation, and it will just be a great way to tie in all the concepts we've been talking about together in a fun and entertaining way. So this is my lesson plan. Thank you very much.